What's up guys, Jeff Norris here. I want to do a quick fly tying video on some new material that new to me I guess. It's pretty popular on the internet. It's like a macramé cord. I guess arts and crafts people would use it to do macramé or however you want to, whatever sort of crafts. I guess it looks like you could do plant hangers and other sort of sewing or weaving things. But for us fly tyers, specifically novice ones like myself, it's a good material because it's cheap and you can get a whole lot of it, so you could be willing to make mistakes or try different things without spending an arm and a leg on a lot of the really expensive synthetic material. This one I got at Hobby Lobby for looks like $2.99. I don't think Marshall's has it, but I do know that Hobby Lobby has quite a wide variety of colors. I've got like gray and obviously white probably. And then this is like a jute color, I guess, or kind of sand. But I wanted to go over a quick tying technique. This is obviously pretty popular on the internet. There's a lot of people that have tied with this stuff. But I've kind of like made a simple methodology of tying it and keeping everything consistent without having to do too much measuring. So I'm going to spin you guys around and get on the vise and show you kind of that technique now. All right. I got a hook in the vise here. This is like a must-add or something simple. I don't like to tie with expensive hooks. Obviously, if you're confident in your tying skills, go right ahead, use a nicer hook. But for me, I like to just mess around and try different techniques, so I don't feel bad kind of throwing away a bad hook or a cheap hook. But I'll show you, this is kind of the important part of this technique that's kind of interesting. So these are the macramé cords. Obviously they're kind of a woven independent fibers that are all woven together just like any normal rope you'd see. I usually start by choosing the color I want, obviously, and then I'll cut a length of it, maybe about 3 inches or so, about that long. Set these over here, and then I'll go ahead and break these apart. So you'll probably see online a lot of people will do a similar technique. They'll break these apart and tie them all together, and then kind of strip them out or brush them out so they're a bulk material, a lot like the EP fiber. But I'll just go ahead and break these out like this, so they're all independent. The strings, I guess, are all the independent little segments of this cordage. And then once I get all this out, there's probably, I think there's maybe 8 per one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah. So break these all apart, pull them all out independently. Come on, there we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, there's a couple there together. There we go. All 8 and separated. So this is just the gray color and the white color. I think it would kind of make like a nice mullet pattern. One thing to note on this macramé cord is that it comes in different sizes. You can see this is 4mm, which is the same one I have here. They have like 2 and 8 and I don't know, some other sizes. Anything bigger than 4 really feels like, well, first of all, the amount of length that you get would be, you'd tie flies for the rest of your life with that one roll. But the 4mm has 8 of these independent sections, which is kind of a nice number. Anything more than that, they don't get as they get bulkier or they're thicker in size. But here's an example pattern of kind of what we're going to tie. So this looks a lot like, to me, I'm no, I guess, expert, but this is the thicker version of what we'll probably tie this today. So this is a, I don't know, what do they call it, PB minnow or something, peanut butter, something like that. Good tarpon fly. I think a video back I had, one of the tarpons I jumped was on basically this exact fly. So once we have all our material laid out like that, we'll go ahead and get started just like every other fly you've ever tied. For the most part, you just build up a good thread base along the hook shank. And then I usually go down to, I'll start about halfway between the barb and the point of the hook, basically where it starts to taper down. Secure that nice and tight, make sure that's good. For these, you can add, obviously, if you're tying your own fly, you can add the frilly stuff in the back, so shiny stuff, whatever you want to do. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to show you kind of a simple methodology of how this idea works. But basically, we're going to use these as our staged material. So a lot of people would take that clump of EP fiber and they'd pull off half the diameter of a pencil, is usually something people would say when they tie these videos. But for us, these are already broken down. I don't need to do any thinking, which is nice. You just cut a section that you want, break it down to the 8 little quadrants, or the 8 little fibers or independent fibers, and then you're good, and that's your material. So I'll start with white on top. I like to do 2 things of white. So I'm going to tie this in basically in the middle, and this would be what I consider the double thickness, I guess, or the thicker of the 2, which I'll show you in 2 seconds. Get this tied down. So that's just tied in right on top in the center of that guy, and then we'll fold the forward one back and just wrap in front of it a few times, maybe 2 or 3, so you can see that's kind of our start. So it's tied back like that. And then what I was saying is, this is the thicker of the 2, the one I showed earlier, and then the thinner variant would be this guy, which is kind of just a less bulky pattern. You can kind of see it's a little bit hollower. You can kind of see right through it. It sinks faster. So depending on how much water you want to push or how deep you are going to fish it, if you want to let it sink or not, you'd basically do the same thing as this, only instead of folding it back, you'd snip that guy and you'd only have 1 string. But for this video, we're just going to do 2. I think it ends up looking a little nicer. So there's our first tie-in. We're going to flip this over. I've just advanced the thread, like I said, just in front of that for the fold back portion. So then I'll do exactly the same thing. Tie it in basically in the center. Make sure it doesn't fold over on the hook. Excuse me. Tie that in, and then I have one on one side of the hook, and then I'll flip this one back and tie it on the other, and then just do 1 or 2 wraps in front of it. Flip this over. And now on the top, I'll go right into the colored portion. So we're basically just going to repeat the same process over and over again. Just tie this in, make sure it's on top, fold it back, a couple wraps in front, and then flip it. Come on now. There you go. Make sure that's on top. Don't break your thread on the hook point. Flip it back, wrap in front. Back and forth. Same thing over and over again. It's a pretty simple fly, obviously, and you can make this as complex as you want. If you want to add crystal flash along the way or in between, or if you wanted to do different colors or however. Spin that. This is just going to be a normal 2-tone minnow or mullet pattern, I guess. Kind of a gray color. There's that. Spin this. It's not, I guess, the prettiest fly you'll ever see, but it definitely catches fish. At least hooks fish. Tarpon are tough to land, but the last video I think I posted maybe 2 ago, I jumped a pretty cool little tarpon on one of these flies. And that was in some dark water too, so this pattern seemed to work wherever I threw it. Alright. Maybe 2 more segments and then we're good. Last bit of white. And I don't know, it's not terribly important to make sure you alternate back and forth like I was doing before. I got one on one side, one on the other. You'll see in a sec when we comb all this out that it'll all lay out in a decent spot anyway. Probably just end it right there, I think. Just do a nice thread base, or thread head on this guy. I'll just terminate it. You could write it, now at this point I would usually add like a crystal flash or something along the lateral lines. But time's sake and just to show you guys the point of this material, I guess, technique, I'm not gonna bother. So that's our kind of bad hairdo EP Minnow. And what we're gonna do is just kind of get all these guys picked out a little bit. And then I'll actually take this off the vise and I'll hold this hook down my finger like that, and then I like to use these little grill brushes. Harbor Freight sells them. They're like $3 or something, $2 for 3 of them. This is just the brass one. And I'll just hold these down and I'll just pick out this fiber, which you can kind of see. Turns into that nice EP style fibrous, I don't know, it feels like carpet to me really, but works well in salt water, fresh water. Doesn't hold too much water, dries out pretty quickly, it's pretty easy to throw. But you can see that looks a lot like the startings of an EP Minnow before you cut it back and you pet it 1,000 times, because all the fly tyers are weird and like to pet their flies. Yeah, see that? Looks pretty nice. And you can comb this out forever, or you can comb it out enough till you're satisfied, and then we're going to do some cutting. Apologize for the camera shaking, I'm trying to make less noise, but alright. You can always comb it after, so I'll usually just rake it out so it's kind of like a nice Christmas tree. And then I'll get some longer scissors, and I'll usually start by kind of cutting parallel to the hook shank, just past the hook point. So we'll cut like this. One, flip it over, and then kind of cut a similar distance away, same parallel line. And that gives you like a square with some whatever frilly tapered points in the back. And then you can comb this back again. You can save these too if you wanted to use like for dubbing brush or whatever. But I mean, this material is you have so much of it in that roll that it's not super critical. Comb this out a bit more. You can kind of see that. It's not my best one, but for the sake of the video, I think it gets the point across. I'll trim this back a little bit. Round off the head of it a little bit. There you go. Pretty simple. Nice two-tone little EP Minnow. Like I said, you can go, this guy, I think I added some crystal flash in here, you can see, and then I added a little eyeball on it, but that's basically it, you know. Works pretty well, I can see the profile. This one, I think I obviously raked this one a little bit more, but profile's pretty good. Pushes a nice amount of water. And the best part about it is you can tie as many as you want, because this fiber is super cheap. It's not $10 for nothing like the EP fiber is. Works probably just as well. I don't know, I'm not an expert in flies, but it seems to work great. So I appreciate everyone watching. Shoot me anything in the comments, let me know what you think. Obviously, I'm not an expert fly tyer by any means, but yeah. If you guys like it, go ahead and shoot me a comment, maybe subscribe. If you want to see any other materials. I've got one more material that I want to share too that's kind of similar to craft fur that I'll probably make a video of soon. Similar idea, but just trying to keep everything cheap and fun so we can experiment with it and try different flies. Thanks for watching.